Peace, welcome to my 11-month and 22-day check-in with No Nicotine. Thanks for liking, thanks for commenting, thanks for subscribing, thanks for clicking on this video nonetheless. And anyone out there who is, addicted to nicotine, addicted to any addiction that they can't think that they can shake, you don't think that you can kick the cup, you don't think that you can get rid of that action, I'm here to tell you that it's entirely possible. I mean, this whole journey is a testimony of that you can go extended periods of time without that addiction and be just as much, just as much of a good time, living life just as much as you would. You're not missing out on anything, and you actually achieve what you want to achieve, which is overcoming that battle that you were at, the war that you were at with that substance, with that addiction. It's about overcoming that. And this whole journey, I've learned that it's about overcoming challenges. And that was a huge one for me because I smoked nicotine for almost 6 years. And to this day, I still think about it mentally. I still feel certain things about it emotionally and also physically. I've never used nicotine in almost a year, so I don't have much relation to it physically, but I see it around me all the time, which is not really a trigger. And it once was the slightest bit of a trigger, but that seemed to fade the more and more I went without it. I just see it around me, and that doesn't really do anything for me anymore, or it doesn't really enhance or influence my actions toward it, so that's a good thing. And spiritually, I know that whereas before I was giving up power towards it, having it take power and control over my actions, and now I know that I'm spiritually free from that, and I have this form of spiritual knowledge and spiritual wisdom to be able to share with other people who are going through a similar circumstance that I was going through. Yes, and when it comes to the journey of quitting nicotine or the journey of quitting a substance, you're going to have challenges. You're going to have times where, you have to push yourself harder than you've ever pushed yourself before, be more disciplined than you've ever been disciplined before, and realize that there's things that you're going to have to do that you might not think that you can do mentally. That physically you might not think that you're equipped physically to be able to handle this certain situation, or spiritually that you're not in the right space to be able to, you're not ready to face this so-called challenge or experience that you need to go through in order to grow. And then emotionally, if you say, hey, I don't feel like I can do that right now, I don't think that I can, or my intuition is telling me that I'm not going to be able to do this or be able to go through with this. Well, that is I've found the exact opposite occurring in my reality when it comes to going without the substances, and now I see it as I have the power. I truly am the one who makes the decision to use this substance or to not use the substance. At the end of the day, I have the power to continue involving myself in these actions or to stop involving myself in these actions. And it was as simple as that. And had I known the whole time, I'm sure moderation would have been implemented much sooner. But it's said that the sooner you start, the harder it can be to stop. So that's to take into account. But I can tell you that I've only gone almost a year where I haven't even outmatched my use, which was almost 6 years, probably 5.5 for the good part. Almost 6 years of use. I haven't even outmatched that yet with the absence of the nicotine. And I can tell you right now, I feel like I have fully taken power and control over that when it comes to my mental state of being, when it comes to thinking about it, when it comes to having thoughts of relapse or anything having to do with nicotine. I can say that for sure, at least my mental state of being has been cleared out to where I have no influence nicotine has no influence on me mentally. And especially physically, this was right off the bat when you felt yourself just really purging, just really getting rid of all the nicotine that was in your body, all the nicotine receptors dying and fading to exist and ceasing to exist. Physically, you only saw nicotine around you and in your surroundings, and it was up to you to be the one to see it as that's somewhere I have been before. I don't have to judge. I can have my own perspective and opinion on it, and that what I'm seeing outside of myself right now does not have to influence my own actions and how my internal world is going to work and be influenced only by, you and you creating that for yourself. And emotionally, you're on a emotional high the moment you quit, because you're like telling yourself, and really what you're going through is the unknown. You're really traveling through the unknown because you really don't know what to expect until you go through it. So emotionally, you're on a emotional experience that is going to be very fulfilling and very stimulating, to say the least. And of course, spiritually, I now know, now that I have this ability, this perspective to see the way the life is, whereas before I wasn't really being as aware. I can spiritually grow and spiritually understand that I'm on a different spiritual path than I was before. And if it's up to me and I see that it's right for my spiritual path to do something, then that's what it's going to be. So listening to my spiritual intuition was definitely a plus when it comes to, stopping the use of nicotine. And for anyone out there, it could be stopping the use of any of your desires that are possibly holding you back, that are causing you to not be successful, causing you to stay stagnant and stay unmotivated and perhaps docile in your nature. Go for it, right? Power to you. I'm telling you right now, as someone who went through it, I've been there. I was the one who couldn't help it. And if you're out there and you can't help it, then tell yourself that's not true, because you can help it. You're the one who's making that decision in the first place. It's really what I had to learn, and to be able to see that it took a lot of times of, going through it without even thinking about it. Just accepting my addiction, accepting my use, no matter what it was doing to my body. It took all that time. It took all that energy. It took all that physical well-being. It took all that mental energy, that mental focus, that spiritual power, that spiritual ability to guide oneself through the life. It took all that from me to understand that I started to know that this was the right thing for me. This was the right thing for me to do, purely based off of, listening to the states of being, understanding myself on a deeper level, and being able to know what I need to do in order to set forward, in order to grow, in order to put myself on a path where I'm going to be taking more care and existing in the most, let's say, best way of existence, or the best quality of life. And mentally, what that did for me was striving to have that best quality of life, was mentally getting rid of any of those mental forms I had that were telling me, hey, all you need to do is go get that nicotine. Hey, don't you think you should go grab the vape right now? You've gone a long time without it. Let's see how it is without it. Going through all those thoughts, and now having been overcome those thoughts, well, mentally that helped me to have a more sense of mental freedom, as well as experience mental strength and mental ability to focus my mental state of being on whatever I wanted to, where it wasn't being drained as much by some addiction that was really toxic towards my mental state of being, that only stopped me from becoming the better version of myself. And physically, what did this help with when striving to live the highest quality of life? Well, definitely my lung health, which is breathing, which is how you exist here. It's one of the main values of life as we know it, and processes of life as we know it. And without that, you wouldn't be here. And for sure, without your lung health, you wouldn't be in certain existences physically. To be able to exist in the highest quality of life physically, I had to detach from nicotine because I knew that it could have consequences. Even though they hadn't played out, I knew that there could be consequences that you can't tell right away, but it's just a compounding effect. And then one day, something happens, or one day it all catches up to you, or your lungs can't take it anymore. So physically, I knew that any effects the nicotine had on my body, especially the development of dependency physically, wanting to get rid of that, really changed me physically into having a sense of physical freedom and to be able to say, all right, I'm out of that toxic behavior right now. Sitting here right now, I'm not going to just find another toxic behavior to adapt to. I'm not going to say, okay, I'm not going to stress physically. I'm not going to beat myself up physically. Even if you were to relapse, or let's not even say relapse, let's say choose to go back to that substance, you have that power. And I've just learned that because going without it, I had to understand that what is this really all about at the end of the day? And it definitely, I would implement moderation because anything has a good and a bad side to it. So taking the good, taking the bad, and learning from both of those was important. So if I were to, say, oh, it's about time I start smoking nicotine again, or anything of that nature where I'm trying to validate my old actions and stuff like that, I'm not going to beat myself up for something like that. I've realized that there's so much growth that has to be done. You have to look at things in a different perspective, and you have to look at them from the truth, with the truth in mind. And doing this journey of no nicotine has really definitely physically put me in a place where I can physically be more accepting of my reality, because I've created that, and I've had an influence on how things have turned out, and I've been able to physically create and materialize the reality that I wish, and the one that's right for me. Emotionally, living the best, highest quality of life emotionally for me meant for sure starting off with not depending on nicotine. I knew I had an emotional dependence on nicotine because for a majority of time, I thought that I would have terrible emotions. I would not feel good all the time unless I had my nicotine. So I was literally emotionally using it as a crutch. And now I have the emotional freedom and emotional strength to not get so wrapped up in those desires, not get so emotionally dependent on what's going on per se, and being more aware, being more emotionally aware for sure has came from this journey. And that comes to emotions when it comes to reacting to anything really that you go through. Just being strong and being able to be strong, not just for yourself, but for others, and to be doing something that's so great, and being someone that is doing good in life, being someone that is doing good things for the world, that is really striving to make change and to make the reality that we live in a better place for all. You'll definitely feel more emotionally, let's say, at peace, we could say, like you're in that right place, for sure, like you're in that right place. And when it comes to, let's talk about when we talk about spiritually living that highest quality of life, we think of where we were before with that addiction, where we were before we moved towards, creating a different reality for ourselves and reaping those, and getting those give backs from what you put in is what you get out. Just getting that was significant because it allowed for a spiritual path to be birthed, and ever since that happened, it allowed for me to be on a spiritual path of teaching, a spiritual path of learning, a spiritual path of changing the world, a spiritual health path of being there to help people when it comes to mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. So spiritually, that allowed me to live a very high quality of life, but that's not over. None of those, even mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, I'm not where I need to be. I'm not saying that, this is all what it's chalked up to be. This is all what it needs to be. This is all you need to do for success. This is all you need to do. This is the plan. This is the way. This is the pathway to do it. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that this is what I've gone through, and I continue to physically get better. I continue to mentally get better. I continue to emotionally get better. I continue to spiritually get better. And I continue to mentally grow. I continue to mentally grow, spiritually grow, emotionally grow, physically grow. And I realize that it's not over. And I realize the steps that I'm making, the more cautious I am, the more, not cautious, but the more aware, I meant consciously aware, that I am of what's going on around me, of what I'm going through. And anyone out there who is going through it mentally, going through it physically, going through it emotionally, going through it spiritually, be strong for you and be strong for yourself, and know that it's all good. And at the end of the day, you're in your power when you're being true to yourself. And what you imagine, you can make a reality. What you think mentally, you can create. What you want to get and will into your existence physically, you can do that. That's possible. As well as emotionally, you can have that emotional clairvoyance. You can exist in a state of emotional maturity. You can exist experiencing positive emotions, whereas negative emotions once ruled you, and negative emotions and negative vibrations were once your version of emotional fulfillment, or your version of emotionally being in heaven, or emotionally feeling as if everything's okay, or you're on cloud 9 per se. You can reach that state, and spiritually you can go into a new spiritual space, grow spiritually, and be on the right spiritual path when it comes to your spiritual path and the spiritual path of those who you're involved with and the times that we are in, as well as truly being a manifestation, being an embodiment of what you want to see, and the embodiment of being your true self. This is regardless of anything. This is regardless of anything that happens mentally. Whatever you think, you can push through that. This is regardless of physically, whatever you see around you in your surroundings, you can push through that. You can do better than that. You can overcome those challenges. Regardless of spiritually, you feel weak, or spiritually, you feel like you don't have the power to create the reality that you want, or to stay on the path that you wish. to spiritually be on, that's not true. You can do whatever you put your mind to, and whatever your spirit is strong, whenever your spirit is strong, as if you are a strong-spirited person, a strong-spirited being, then you have no issues being able to overcome challenges that come your way. And emotionally, you have nothing to worry about, because there's always going to be a new space to move into. Time is only a concept, and emotionally, you will flow and be able to understand how you feel and understand why you feel the way that you do, and be able to, transmute that into something that's going to move you forward, something that is going to tell you something about yourself so you can do the growing that you need to do. Like I said, everyone out there, just be strong. Stay in strong spirits. Stay strong emotionally. Stay strong mentally. Stay strong physically. Stay mentally protected, physically protected, emotionally protected, spiritually protected. That's it for the 11-month, 22-day check-in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Power to you. See you in the next one. I'm out.